Happy Friday, everyone. And here we are. We got our echo back. It's our friend. Anyway, here's our Total Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm here with Roy DeCan, Betty Withrow, our collaborators here, and our special guest is Morry Zelcovitch. And I'm tempted to ask about the BWEE, but we'll get to that later. And so today we're going to talk about how to activate your hidden brain powers for enhanced creative expression.
That's what I need.
We all need that today, especially after the echo chamber we just went through. So, Betty, maybe you want to introduce your friend a bit more, and then we'll get him to introduce himself to correct everything we said.
Right. How well does any of us really know one another, right? You can spend your whole life with someone and you don't know them. But I will say that getting to know Morry just the slightest bit has been wonderful. Morry's approach to brain health and brain training is unique, and he has created a series of products that are wonderful for enhancing your experience within your mind and within your capabilities. I went ahead and downloaded his virtual coffee thing, and I listen to it every morning. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I just listen to my coffee, and it works really well. And I have not known Morry for very long, but what I do know of him is quite enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to learning more on this very broadcast today.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that silence to mean I'm supposed to talk now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So, hey, everybody. And Greg, Ray, and Betty, nice to see you. I'm actually the world's first and only brainwave entrainment engineer. What that means is I'm a neuroscientist who studies things like quantum physics, perception, psychology, sociology, and a whole bunch of other disciplines in an effort really to understand the human mind, brain, and body and how they all integrate to create our experience in the world. Basically, what that means is that every experience we have initiates a response from our brain, and that response creates brainwave activity. So most of us have heard of delta and alpha and theta and beta and gamma and all these different things. All that really means is how many times your neurons, which are your brain cells, pulse an electric pulse in a time frame of 1 second. Why that's important is that those thoughts we have, which create brainwave activity, depending on the region of the brain and the frequency that these pulses occur, the brain creates chemistry, things like neurotransmitters, endorphins, and hormones. And the interesting thing about that is it's kind of like a recipe. So if you're a good chef and you take your ingredients and you make delicious soup and delicious main courses, everything's delicious and it's good for you. But if you're not a good chef, like I was most of my life, you take the same ingredients and you create a recipe that tastes like garbage. And then your life, in essence, tastes like garbage. So everything we perceive is the direct result of our brain creating brainwave activity, which creates chemistry. And it's that chemistry that allows you to feel and experience whatever it is that, believe it or not, you've chosen to experience. So what I do is I create these audio and visual stimulation patterns. People don't have to study, they don't have to think, they don't have to practice anything. It automatically takes advantage of certain features of your brain, something called the frequency following response, which is essentially the same response when you bop your head and tap your feet to music. You're not trying to do that, you just do it. Well, I create audio and visual stimulation that does that for your brain. That creates the chemistry that allows you to see the world differently. And the beautiful thing about the human experience is no matter how screwed up we are, no matter how depressed we are, if we can see something causing a change in how we feel, in how we act, and how we react to the world around us, that's a very powerful incentive to move forward, and it gives us hope. And hope takes away fear. And that's what I'm all about.
That's great. So, Betty, you said you have the coffee audio?
Yeah. If you go to Morry's website, he has a download that's called Digital Coffee, and it's 14 minutes. it's very subtle. At first you're kind of going, well, okay, and then I find it towards the end of it, I'm going, all right, I got this, which is what you want out of coffee. That's the theory of coffee, right? And
Sure.
I like to start my day with something amazing to listen to. I start out with solfeggio tones, and then topping it off with the coffee is really nice. Yeah. And later on we can do formal music as such. But for me, the way that my brain works, I tend to wake up, overthink, and then go, wait, not that. And then move into that choice that you mentioned, Morry, of cooperating with higher level forces and making a conscious effort to train my mind into those things. And what you're doing is making that kind of automatic, that you, like you said, you don't have to think about this. It's just there, and your brain naturally responds to it. Pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm lazy. I need everything to happen, kind of take my hand and lead me to do it. I really don't want to do it. I was depressed for 40 years.
Yeah.
So when you're depressed that long, it gives you motivation to not want to be depressed anymore. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And and the reality is that the world, the universe, and the creation and our lives work mostly without our conscious intervention. We just get in the way of it behaving. So it sounds like you're just making it, streamlining it so you get out of your own way a bit more.
Yeah, it's more about being natural. Some people think it's all about supernatural and giving you abilities that you don't have. I think it's more about allowing you to rediscover and reuse abilities that maybe you haven't used or you haven't thought you had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or haven't even developed yet. Huh?
I was in a choir one time, and the person who's leading the choir said, virtually every child knows how to sing, but by the time they're in grade 12, the world has taught them that they can't. So,
right.
That's unfortunately a truism. Yeah.
A lot of things are like that. Anyway, you mentioned the Morry method and quantum triliminals. So maybe you want to explain why the word triliminal and how that goes together. I think you said it, so we'll just say it again.
Sure. Well, the Morry method is, obviously my name. When I was first starting my very first system and I had associated myself with my first business partner, he asked me, he said, look, we're going to be introducing you. People know about other products of this genre, like the people who will know about my products. What is it about yours that's different? And I started listing through a whole bunch of things that are different. And he said, well, what do you call that? And I said, well, I don't like what I call it because I don't really call it anything. The Morry method, but I don't call it anything. I think that's egomaniacal to call it the Morry method. But he said, no, that's perfect. It makes you sound like a human. And I go, well, that's good because I'm actually an artificial intelligence. No. so no, I'm actually human, more or less. It's human as the next person, I suppose. But this green skin guy next to me actually isn't human. So
sure.
But essentially, it's my methodology. When I first started coming out of my stupor, my depression, I had discovered brainwave entrainment. So it existed before me. And it should have worked, but it didn't. So I had to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And as I was reinventing the wheel, I started coming up with my own techniques, my own way of doing things. And that's what actually brought me out. So that kind of leads into quantum triliminals, because quantum is essentially a phrase. It's a word that means the most basic level, the smallest piece. And that's what I do. I break everything down to the smallest component so that it's easier to process by the brain, by the mind. And triliminals are a specific technology, one of the many technologies and techniques I've developed. A triliminal utilizes a background noise like shh. Most people would call that pink noise or white noise. It's actually 600 frequencies overlaid on top of each other. The brain, like every other part of our body, resonates at specific frequencies, and different ranges, different parts of the brain resonate at different frequency. So embedded in the shh sound is frequencies that elicit responses or action potentials from different regions of the brain. That makes it more susceptible to what comes later. I also include something called brainwave entrainment tones. To most people, that's going to sound pretty monotonous. Bump, 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 bump. Betty, you'd be familiar with that from the digital coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So what that specific frequency does in the triliminals is it initiates a response in the brain called LTP, which stands for long-term potentiation. And without getting too sciencey, it's basically your brain's ability to form neural pathways or memory pathways. With that frequency, your brain can produce these things. Without it, it goes in one ear and out the other. So I hyperstimulate different regions of the brain. I create a frequency that makes it possible for your brain to create memory pathways. And then I talk to you in your left ear with specific information for your right hemisphere and information from your right ear with information for your left hemisphere. That's how perception works, by the way. Anything in the right side goes to the left hemisphere. I'm actually being dyslexic now. Anything in the left side goes to the right hemisphere, and in the right side goes to the left hemisphere. And then I speak to you also in the middle of your brain at the same time. And I'm talking over myself quite a bit. That reprograms your brain away from what I call the negative reflexive thought process. And an example of that is if you get a call at midnight and you don't normally get a call at midnight, what is the first thought that jumps through your head?
Something's wrong.
There you go. Who's sick? Who died? Who's in an accident?
Right.
Those are the thoughts that jump in. But why do they jump in? There's no reason. The phone rings during the day. It's kind of like walking into a dark room. There's nothing there in the dark that isn't there in the light. And yet we immediately jump to the negative and to the fear.
Yeah.
This technique actually stops that from happening. And it allows you to be more positive. Now, there will be times when the negative thing does seem to happen. In that case, these recordings allow you to recover much faster, because let's face it, even in the, when you're in the middle of a dangerous situation or a scary situation, what is a better way to be? Is it better to be afraid and scared and panicky, or is it better to be calm, cool, and collected? So that's what this particular technology does. Now, that's just one of the probably 20 odd techniques and technologies I've developed so far. And I'm also working on 50 more.
So how quick can you develop these neural pathways?
The process starts happening immediately under the proper conditions. So if you're producing LTP, if you're in the right state of mind, the memory is there anyway. In most cases, when someone can't remember something, it's not that they don't have that information stored. It's just that they're kind of forcing themselves into a direction away from where that information might be stored on a hard drive. It's like your computer. So your computer stores information on a hard drive, and then it creates a map. So when you want to access something, it first looks at the map, and then the map sends it to the part of the hard drive that holds the information. Your brain kind of works the same way. So if you're directing it to the wrong area, you may think you've forgotten something, but in reality, you're just not in the right area, so you're not accessing it.
My cousin said it was amazing. I had an encyclopedic memory. Too bad I didn't have an index.
There you go. There's a perfect example.
I can pull up all sorts of stuff, but it's sort of random.
Yeah, and so that brought to mind, like, say you're having a conversation with someone and you go to remember someone's name, and it's like there's this invisible wall between you and the name, right? This happens. And then when you let go of needing to find the name, all of a sudden you remember it. Is this related to the process you were just describing? Is it just kind of the same?
Without being able to dissect your brain and put it under a whole bunch of measuring devices, I would expect that that's a reasonable assumption. Yeah. That you're kind of forcing the issue. When you kind of freak out and panic about it, you're thinking more about the feeling than about the information you want to access.
Yeah.
And in reality, I think we're all computers. The thing is, though, too many of us treat our brains like a hard drive. So we parrot back what we read as opposed to giving our opinion or thinking about what we're reading. Yeah. I have a lot of people who I talk to who are very intelligent people, but they love quoting other people.
Uh-huh.
Frankly, if I want to know what the other people are saying, I'll ask them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're going to tell me what you think about what they said. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, we've come across a few people like that in networking groups, and he says, when can this be over?
Well, I'm not bad mouthing anyone. I think that they've been taught that being well read, so to speak, is a sign of intellect, right?
Yeah.
And they've been misled. That's all.
I've had people tell me to stop mentioning other people too, so I'm guilty as charged.
Well, it's really a form of social capital, or what do you call it? Status marker. I know something you don't know, or something like
and see if you can guess, right?
Yeah.
I've had a few instructors like that too. I know something you don't know, and I see if you can guess. No, you're supposed to be teaching us that stuff. But
well, think about it though. You guys talk about creativity all the time, right?
Yeah.
So someone who is a repository of other people's information is not being creative.
You're right.
Yeah.
My dad used to tell me, the smartest people are the people who, like you don't have to remember something if you understand it.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. So knowledge is good and information is good, but you need to apply it. At least my current understanding is one needs to imply it. I hate when other people say you. So I apologize. I'm going to slap myself in the face right now because I can't speak for anyone other than myself. So I don't like that.
So one of my sons has a PhD in math, and he was always a very efficient student. Like he never really took notes or anything. All he did is listen, and when he understood it. Yeah. He had in grade 9 or something in parent-teacher interview, somebody he was on danger of not passing the course because he knew it all and he wouldn't do all the little exercises. The instructor said, you know more about math than I'll ever know. But the rest of the kids need to do their exercises in order. So give me an excuse to give them the marks. So you got to go do it. And then somebody else also said he needed to write down the steps because he said eventually you're going to get to the point where having the answer isn't it. You'll get almost 0 marks for the answer, but you'll get all the credit for getting there. So you have to be able to explain the steps.
Right.
That's kind of empty, though. I think to me, it's about learning how to learn.
Yeah.
When I think back to school, 99% of what I learned in school is totally useless. I've never used it. But I think that's just school arbitrarily picking a bunch of topics, general topics, that it can teach me how to learn. Because now that I know how to learn, I can learn anything. I don't need school. I don't need a teacher. I don't need a textbook.
Yeah. And I think most of us, like Roy and Betty and I, back in the day, we had a conversation with somebody who says, nobody taught anything about anything we're doing. You had to figure it out yourself, right? So, just to be able to, like for me, my superpower is I can read the screen. It's amazing how people won't read the screen. The screen is saying, press any key to continue. And it's, I don't know what to do. I need help, but they just, so if you can read and look up things and figure it out. But there we go.
Well, how many people do you know that pick up their smartphone and it doesn't do what it's supposed to? So instead of them looking around or even doing a search, they just start swiping and pushing and hoping something's going to change.
Hoping something's going to change. Yeah, for sure. My car used to have I called an adult-proof lock in the back, like that. Like you couldn't get out the door. The trick was if you pulled the handle twice, the door would open. No kid would ever get stopped by that, right? But I had an adult in there. I can't open the door. A child will be bashing on that door until it either an adult opens it or it breaks, right? But adults get so uncreative, I guess, with solving problems.
Yeah. Getting back to what you said a little while ago about knowledge and creativity, like not need, what is it? People who are a repository of knowledge that they just are parroting back. I don't remember where I read this, and I thought about it a lot. And so I'm going to come up with something original to say about it. Okay, is that true originality is when you know and you understand the basis of the form that you're using, and then you build on that. You're not like making it up from the ground up. you're building on what's been done previously and taking a new slant on it. That's true originality. And in order to really be original, you have to understand what's gone before, but not parrot it back. So that's
also wrap your head around this thought. Everything you know because of your interpretation of what you've read. Just because someone wrote something doesn't mean we all agree on its meaning. We can all say we believe in God and walk away smiling, going, oh, everybody believes in God. Everything is wonderful, long live God, and all these things. And all of our definitions of God could be so completely different that we couldn't be farther away from agreeing with each other.
Well, that's, I think the best you can say is the God of your understanding. And at best, it's only going to be some kind of abstract model that your brain can understand, and that's why it depends who, somebody in a Kalahari Bushman or, somebody at Maui or somebody in New Jersey, everybody's going to have their own model that they're going to filter things through. But the funny thing is that, certain fundamentalists will think theirs is the only one, and they just totally misunderstood the point. But they're sticking to the letter of the law. So.
Yeah. Most of not most, but possibly most of the conflicts that we have known as humans are based on different interpretations of the idea and principle of there being something divine that goes beyond us.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's over here. No, it's over there. No, it's green. No, it's red. Like, They're silly.
I'm going to go with Einstein on this. It's not only is the universe stranger than we understand, it's stranger than we can understand. And if we just start there, then there's a lot of things we can let go of.
Yeah. And it's I think one of the things that is really cool about the products that you're creating, Morry, is that it's based on the principle of cooperating. Like you don't have to understand it. If these waves are showing up, you cooperate with these waves and you get the desired result. So that's a whole different approach from people trying to think their way into the condition that they want, which very seldom works.
Very seldom works. So I brought this up on the screen for a reason. We were in a meeting with our Australian group, right? And somebody said something, and you just made a comment, I'm going to create a tribliminal for that. And, maybe you could describe what that process is when you see something like an issue that you could help. How does that process work for you?
I'm actually checking the note right now. Yeah. So, So my work is, because I look at the brain as the central processing unit of your life. If it doesn't pass through your brain, you don't know it's there. You could be hit in the head. Someone could punch you in the face and your head could fly over and fly right back. And if your brain doesn't create the chemistry to acknowledge that, you don't know what happened. So I kind of design all of my work based on the idea that the brain is capable of anything. And it's just a matter of unlocking its potential. So triliminals, I actually created those a long time ago. I've got 164 sets of them right now because I had to start a club. Because from the very first one, which was on confidence and self-esteem for a product I released in 2009, people kept going, oh, this thing's amazing. Can you do one on this topic, on this topic, on this topic, on this topic, on that topic? And yeah, I can. So it's simply a matter of writing scripts that promote positive, or at least directional thought. So thought that leads people to rethink and reinterpret into their own terms. See, I'm an expert in myself. I can't be an expert in anybody else. Yeah. So anything I say in a recording, for instance, in a triliminal, is designed to inspire that mind that is being exposed to it to reinterpret and reimagine these in terms that make sense to them. Much like we were talking about earlier, when we were all saying we all believe in something, but we don't believe in the same thing, even though we use the same word. So it's the same thing with the human mind. I cannot have as my intention to say, well, if I say these particular words in a row, everyone's going to have the same reaction or the same result. That's just not going to happen because everybody's different. So I create a special way of doing it where I talk over myself so that the listener's brain automatically creates what needs to be created. I have an algorithm I designed that helps me write these scripts. And of course, they can't be for every single person, but I have yet to have anyone ask for a refund when it comes to the triliminals. So when they're using them the proper way, apparently they're getting enough of a benefit.
That's because of the subliminal message at the end that says, don't ask for a refund.
Yeah. I don't put subliminal. I do subliminal recordings, but they're probably the weakest thing that I do because they're not really powerful by their very nature. They're subliminal. I mean, they're below the level of conscious awareness. So, but so the triliminals are designed for you to help yourself. Really, everything I've created, when I went through my 40 years of hell on earth, I tried to get help from other people and nobody could help me. Doctors wouldn't help me. Psychologists, psychiatrists wouldn't help me. Sociologists wouldn't help me. Drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, a lot of other addictions wouldn't help me. Nothing helped me until I realized that that's not a bad thing. I actually have to help myself.
Yeah.
And that's how I design all of my systems. All of my systems are designed that the only guru in your life is the one who looks back at you when you brush your teeth in the morning.
Yeah. I think most spiritual traditions and most even self-help things will say everything you need is in yourself. You just have to recognize that and cultivate it.
To me, it's all about awareness.
Yeah.
When I suddenly became self-aware that I was doing a lot of the stuff that made me feel like hell to myself, and just for a second, I changed. Like my very first recording that I listened to, it was a half-hour recording. It felt like half an hour. I heard everything I put in it, and I didn't feel any different. But two things changed right away that I didn't notice until a few minutes later. One of them was that when I said to myself, oh, I can't believe this didn't work, my last hope, and it didn't help me, the first thought that popped into my head was, yeah, but Morry, you have 40 years of this. Did you really expect one half-hour recording to make you feel better? Right? But that's funny. It is. But I didn't even realize till like a month and a half ago that was a positive thing.
Yeah.
Because ordinarily I would have gone right to the negative. Yeah. And one of my symptoms were hearing thousands of voices. So for 40 years, all I heard were voices. And it was like being in a crowd of people and everybody was talking.
Yeah.
And the first time I listened, 5 minutes after it ended, I started hearing the voices coming back. That was the first time in my life I never heard voices. And that excited me. And that's what drove me to create my first system. Yeah. That's what pulled me out of my depressive stupor. And since then, I haven't been able to stop creating. I have 23 products right now. 10 more are being released shortly. And I have another 50. And they all have techniques and technologies that I've developed because I just keep getting ideas. And just like you mentioned, someone will say something and it's like, click, another idea. Click, another idea. So I am far from being a brilliant creator. If anything, I'm a pretty smart sponge.
That's important.
Yeah. That's
creative sponge, smart and creative sponge.
Yeah,
you turned it into a good thing.
Yeah, you're observing carefully and responding to what you observe. That's true creativity.
Yeah. Well, look, Einstein, we were talking about Einstein before. Brilliance is the ability to notice something others don't see.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right. That's all it is. Yeah.
So everybody's brilliant because everybody sees things other people don't see.
Yeah.
But if they don't recognize it, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
That's the trick. But we've been brought up that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've been taught not to pay attention. We've been taught not to think. We've been taught not to ask why, just to accept. Because if the authority tells us this is how it is, we're not supposed to question that authority. Yeah. That's one reason why I don't believe in the law of attraction or the law even of gravity. First of all, if you started floating suddenly, I doubt the police would come and arrest you. So laws are made by people, right? They're not made by nature.
Yeah. Very good point.
Yeah, that's like some people say that the reality is all in your mind. Well, go try standing in front of a bus and see how that works out for you. there are some things that actually can hurt you that aren't just invented by you. Anyway.
However, there is something to be said about quantum physics, though, which basically says something doesn't exist for you until it does, until you observe it in some fashion.
Yeah, good point.
Right? So, and there's a reason why my hand can't pass through my other hand. It's not because it can't, it's because of the dense packed cells are denser than the other cells and they can't pass through. I remember seeing a video, well, it wasn't a video back then, it was a film in the Ontario Science Center when I was a kid, and it showed a pretty blonde girl in a sundress, and she was sitting in a field of daisies reading a book of poetry. And it just kept backing up and backing up and backing up. And you know how the whole world looks like it's kind of like a puzzle when you get high enough in an airplane?
Yeah.
So everything started looking like that. And then you just see the Earth, and then you just see a blue dot, and then you see the Milky Way galaxy. And then it starts speeding back. And it's back and back and back. And it goes back to the same girl. But this time it doesn't stop over her shoulder while she's reading the book. This time it goes right into her hand.
Yeah.
So instead of becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, now we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it stopped with you basically standing beside a cell in your hand.
Yeah.
And wherever you looked, you couldn't see another cell. That's how small.
Yeah.
Or that's how small I was, that I was so small I could only see the one cell. Made me start thinking, if that is true, what if all of us, what if the four of us are all cells in the same body? But because we're so small, we think we're separate organisms. We think we're separate and unique.
Yeah.
But in reality, all of us, quote unquote, life forms on this planet are really part of the same life form. And then it started making sense to me because I thought, well, look at diseases like cancer. What does cancer do? Cancer affects and converts other cells, and it changes them into something dangerous. Well, what do? We attack and we hurt our fellow human beings. We steal from them, we rape them, we beat them up, we kill them. Coming from a scientist, this is going to sound really weird, but my belief is when we get, not if, but when we get to the point of society where we stop being jealous, we stop being mean, we stop being, all these horrible things to each other, I think disease is just going to disappear. I think it's a reflection of how we treat each other on a larger scale. And once we stop doing that, there'll be nothing to reflect. We won't catch colds. We won't get sick. We won't get AIDS. We won't get this. We won't get that.
Yeah.
Our current medical paradigm says cut and treat. So take chemicals and blah, blah, blah. Well, some of the newer paradigms say stop doing certain things and you'll get healthier. You don't have to wait to get sick.
Yeah.
To do something to help yourself.
So I'm working with somebody, I've been working with them for about 40 years, but he was diagnosed with terminal cancer last year. And then he put on a concert to raise money. And then he went through a series of treatments, but nothing's worked, right? Nothing, the new thing didn't work and the original chemo didn't work. But he just decided, okay, I'm not going to do that again. He's just going to eat well, exercise, and then planning the next concert sort of keeps him. He's doing well, And people like Louise Hay and others who have cured themselves of cancer through prayer or diet or things would say that it's true. It's in a way, if we stop fighting our natural order, we create the noise in our own systems that manifests as a disease. So if we can figure out how to do that.
It's all vibration. It's all resonance.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said. It's if we can do it. The other thing is, our time on this planet may really be kind of like that. I'm sure each of us has stubbed our toe before, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that the pain you feel in stubbing your toe and however long that lasts, which feels like a couple of minutes, but probably is only a few seconds.
Yeah.
What if that's really what our existence is here?
Yeah.
The span of a stubbed toe.
Yeah.
And even dangerous, scary, painful diseases are just like stubbing your toe in the grander scheme of things. And we're here because it's a step of whatever we're supposed to be, progressing to.
Yeah.
So we just don't know. And because we don't know, I don't believe in fact and I don't believe in truth.
Yeah. So part of it is all we can do is enjoy the journey.
Do our best to enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just try to appreciate what's there, what you've got, and not, because we get wound up about a bunch of stuff that doesn't really matter.
True. Yeah. And I think part of the wonder of that is learning how to be pleased and excited about how much we don't know, and acknowledging the power of that and saying, look at all the stuff I don't know. What a great opportunity to learn while I have my 5 minutes here.
Good point.
Abraham Hicks said to one person one time, he says, well, let's say you had everything you ever imagined right now, and you had it right now. Wouldn't that be really boring?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have a journey anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing was, moving forward towards something in a creative way, right? So appreciate where you're at and then move forward in a positive way. And that's all you need to do. So
enjoy the ride. Don't wait for the
ride,
destination, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And is there a destination really? Like you get to where you're going and then you go somewhere else?
No, I don't think there is.
Yeah.
Well,
the Buddhists would say you're just looping around for a long time.
Well, look at it this
forward.
way. Look at it this way. Everything you see on this planet, you're seeing in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
What if in reality, and there's lots of physics and theories that say there's actually 8 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So what if everything we see, we only see 40% of it?
Yeah.
Because the rest of it is hidden from us because our observational techniques are only good for 3 dimensions, not 4.
Yeah.
What if you're dreaming this? We're actually all having a dream. We're actually sleeping in a different plane somewhere, and this is us dreaming. And when we're sleeping, we're actually in a different plane living that life.
Yeah.
Like, just think, whether it's true, whether it's woo-woo, whether it's whatever, it doesn't matter. The idea is to expand your thought to the concept that we don't know anything. We have a current understanding, but that's all we have is an understanding. And that understanding changes with every new bit of information or input we get.
Yeah.
And that's what makes my life, I'm 61 years old, and I feel younger, more alive, more aware than I have ever felt.
Yeah, it keeps getting better too, Morry.
It does. I would not go back. If you paid me, I would not go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so much of it does revolve around letting go of the idea that you know something.
Yeah. I know nothing. The old Hogan's Heroes for anyone who doesn't know that.
I know nothing.
Hogan's Heroes, right? I know nothing.
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Yeah, it reminded me what you just said of the scene in Alice in Wonderland where the White King is sleeping, and who was it that was telling? I think it was the caterpillar telling Alice, "Oh no, we're just a sort of a dream in his head," and she denies it, furiously, like, that can't be, Oh yes, if that king was to wake up, you'd go out bang like a candle.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the whole thing. I have a kind of a joke that I tell people when I'm at a party. I say, what's really interesting about you people, you humans. Right? They kind of get an idea if they're listening what I'm going to be up to. But here's the thing. I can tell you that I'm actually a visitor from another world. And sure, I'm disguised to look human and I sound human, et cetera, because I'm here to study you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm here. And in reality, like, that's what I am here for. I am here to study human nature. That's what I do.
Mhm.
But I can tell you I'm not from here. And you will laugh it off and you won't believe me. I cannot expose myself if I tried, because you're so wrapped up in your own little existence that you think that's all there is. So I literally say, I am not of this planet. And you will think I'm just saying that. But in reality, I'm not of this planet. And they can't wrap their head around that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting concept when people have their dramas, they have their way of thinking about things, and they just cannot, the minute you try to get them to pull away from it, it's like ripping a scab, right? Oh, don't want to do that. Got to leave it alone. Let it heal. Can't change how I'm thinking. The whole thing with the 8 dimensions, right? Once you start imagining that there's more than 3 dimensions, once you start imagining that maybe human beings are really not from this planet, maybe we are originally when we were amoebas or something from another planet, maybe we were just a piece of chemistry that blended with other chemistry, but it came on a asteroid that impacted with Earth.
Mhm.
You know, once we start imagining these possibilities, it opens up a whole new existence and a whole new way of understanding things
Mhm.
that I find fascinating. So in reality, I spent most of my life not thinking I was from this world because of how I felt, because everybody else smiled and had a good time and I was miserable. So how could I be from this planet? How could I be this off? You know, all my friends were married in their early 20s. I didn't get married till after 50. All my friends were they're all retiring now. My career is really just starting.
Yep.
I'm
You're
like
good
totally
company there.
dyslexic. I'm either an alien or I'm dyslexic or both.
Yeah. My friends who quit school in grade 10 are all long retired and financially well off. So I don't know. I think, I should have turned left in Albuquerque.
Well, what about this idea? Suppose we're all really radio programs. I floated this one about 20 years ago to a group of people who became infuriated by it. What if we're all just radio programs and we don't have any objective existence at all? We think that we're really real, right? And this was when the little video games were just starting to come out. What if we're all like in somebody's video games? And now you have people saying, well, there's convincing evidence for the idea that we're all living in a simulation. I'm like,
The
well,
Matrix.
yeah. What the whole concept of reality, I think we touched on this earlier, is overrated.
Well, the reality, even just simply things like color. Like color doesn't actually exist in the real world in the way we think it does.
Yeah.
It's just our perception. Like dogs see colors differently, other things see colors differently. So,
Even
what we
people.
observe is really a function of what we think we're observing and the tools that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we all see the niche domination sign?
Yeah.
What color is the color over the houses and buildings?
Red.
No, it's not. It's actually every color except for red.
Oh, okay.
You're
Yeah.
seeing red bounce off of it.
And
Right.
All the colors it is are absorbed. So you don't
and
see
it's the
them.
same as like a
Forestry.
bird's feather.
Mhm.
The feathers have no pigment in them at all. It's just a reflection, and we perceive the reflection in a certain way. And it's that's the difference between colors that are absorbed and then colors that are transmitted. So it's way more complex than we think. And
Oh, yeah.
Sure. And do
if
you
you
know
want-
that you see everything upside down?
and if you want to
Mhm.
if you want to really spend a lot of your life arguing about something that doesn't matter, just ask everybody, is teal blue or is teal green, right?
Yeah, really, any color, there's going to be a difference of opinion
Yeah.
on what that actually is.
Oh, yeah.
How about your voice? Do you know that you don't hear anything? You never have? Hearing Like you've heard that old joke or that old riddle. If a tree falls in the forest, let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, does it make a sound? So yes or no?
So I'm on the side of yes, because I'm not so person-centric to think that my ego determines anything else for the basis.
Okay, that's a lot more information than we needed for this, but that's fine. So what about the other two? Yes or
I
no?
think it makes
Does
a
tree make a noise?
vibration.
Yes?
I think it makes a vibration. And if your eardrums pick up that vibration, it can be heard. But if they don't, it could be said there's no sound.
You're so close. You're the first person who has been that close. It doesn't make a sound at all, of course not. But the brain interprets the vibration and it creates what we know as sound.
Mm-hmm.
So well done. That was very well thought out. Everything is vibration. If people don't believe me, I tell them, look, you know where your speaker is on your phone or on your computer? Just put your hands over while we're talking and you'll feel the vibration, because that's what it is. It's vibration. Yeah. And if each of us could record each other's voices, not on one of these, but from our head.
Yeah. So
our voices would sound a little bit different to everybody.
Yeah. And that's why most people don't like the sound of their own voice.
No.
That's a little different, actually, because the voice is coming from a different place.
Yeah. But it's just, all sorts of things. Anyway, about the sound in the forest, right? There's one thing, there's the egotistical thing. It says, if I don't hear it, then it doesn't exist. But, the fact is that the tree created vibrations. And if there was something there to actually perceive it, then there was a sound. So I come from the place, it's very selfish to think that there's nothing else in the universe that might be in the forest other than us, because there's going to be other creatures who will be startled by it or whatever,
or other things
in some sense. But yeah.
But again, it's not creating a sound. Your brain creates the sound. The
Good
tree
point.
doesn't.
Yeah.
The vibration is created by the tree falling.
Yeah.
But the vibration is interpreted by different regions of the brain, which then is a translation of the sound.
Yeah.
I love people asking questions. Don't accept anything. That's my only truism. Do not accept anything you hear or read, period, because that's all based on somebody else. Interpret everything in your own frame of reference as best you can, because most of our frames of reference have been greatly influenced by other people. So
I guess the other thing is, if Betty writes a book and nobody reads it, did she write the book, right?
That's nice.
That's a good point, Greg, because I have a couple of books sitting in my hard drive that have been kind of going, where are you? So,
we've got one for us that's in the
that makes 3. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we need to work on that one.
Yeah, we got several things that we got some doggies to round up around here.
Yeah.
But the whole debate about the tree in the forest made me think about. I lived in the forest for a long time, and in this time of year, if you're not aware of rattlesnakes, you're going to come across a rattlesnake. Okay, if you are instead aware that there's rattlesnakes out there, you go ahead and make some of this, and you stomp on the trail, and I sing or something like that. And the truth is, the rattlesnake does not hear you, but it does feel your vibration on the path. So, did the tree fall? The rattlesnake didn't hear it, but it felt it.
It felt it, right.
So if we run a broadcast on Friday afternoon and nobody watches it, did we run the broadcast?
We sent out
yes.
The
answer is yes, because we were here.
Yeah, we were here.
And we experienced it.
Yeah.
Just because an audience didn't.
True. Right? Yeah.
I was speaking of snakes. I stopped off at a park in Texas one time, and in the driveway they had a bunch of posters about snakes. And the first thing when you walked into the interpretation center is they had giant posters about the 6 highly poisonous snakes that were in the park. And so I says, okay, I'm going to go and get my boots.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And stomp.
And
it's an awareness thing. Everything is an awareness thing. Like, are you aware that you don't know what's going on? Like you said a little while ago, Morry, don't accept anything. And that's why I really believe in reading people you disagree with and listening to people who may have opinions that you find to be insufferable, because otherwise you're not going to be able to realize where they're coming from, and or engage in some kind of a positive discussion with them. The chances of changing their mind are zero if you don't even understand where they're coming from. And if changing your mind is your idea, then you really got to do that. The value of that, who knows? But everybody has a different interpretation. So listening to all, accepting none, and then saying, okay, what do we have here? I think is the closest we can get to getting some accurate information.
If you believe in truth.
Well, I didn't say truth. I said accurate, like something that's operative, accurate in the sense of being congruent enough with the rest of what's going on that you can be functional.
Okay, I can accept that.
Thank you.
I mean, look, they used to think when women became hysterical that they needed to drill a hole in the head to let the evil spirit out.
I know.
And most of the women calmed right down after they had a hole drilled in their head.
Well,
but it wasn't because the spirit left. It's because they don't want any more holes drilled in their head.
Exactly.
So it worked.
Yeah.
So it worked.
Amazing.
It seemed to work, but it wasn't necessarily working, right? It just gave the appearance.
Amazing how she started to cooperate after that.
I'd cooperate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Suppose that if you got in an argument with a man in public, you got publicly dunked to the point where you almost died. Would you consider doing it again? Probably not. Oh, well, she was cured of her mental disease that made her think she should argue.
I see, yeah.
Really?
Or like the Salem witch test, right?
Yeah.
If they thought you were a witch, they would try to drown you.
Yeah.
And if you drowned, you were innocent. If you survived, you were a witch, and then they burnt you. So there we go.
Thanks, you guys.
There's no win in that.
No, exactly.
Definitely not.
Right. Yep. So anyway,
this conversation's gone all over the world, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have. There we go. We kind of expected that when we started.
Actually, we went further than that. We went out all the way out to the galactic level on the Milky Way, and then back to the girl with the daisy. Yeah.
So you were talking about
that's pretty cool.
Relative dimensions, right? The two things come to mind is that the Fantastic Journey or whatever it was with Raquel Welch years ago.
Yep.
But in the first, at the end of Men in Black 1, I think they had this little animated montage, and they're looking for the universe, right? And it turns out the universe was inside a little amulet on the cat, and they went inside, and they, like you were saying, just completely going, and so the whole universe was just things playing marbles or something. It was just like like the whole scope was just completely, everything's just a microcosm of something else. Like you can see that, like when you see like the insects flying around, they're doing their stuff. They're not aware that there's these gigantic things looking at them. Really.
Yeah.
Do we know that?
Well, we don't know that, but most of them, like it's their perception of things are, you're completely different, right? According to you.
That's true. Completely different, but we don't really know what it is.
Yeah, we don't really know what it is.
I remember an old movie when I was a drug addict, Animal House.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And Donald Sutherland was a professor in it. I remember he was smoking up with a couple of these kind of semi-straight kids, and he had a nail file, and he was cleaning out the dirt from under his nail, and he said, it's possible that this under my nail is a complete universe. And there's lives and civilizations and, all kinds of entities living there.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of our terms, the dirt's only been under my nail for like a day or two.
Yeah.
But in their terms, it could be millennia.
Well,
and I just wiped them all out.
Yeah, for sure. You don't even want to know what's living on your skin, really. But I was at a museum, a natural history museum, and they had it was a block that was about 6 feet by 6 feet, a cube, right? And they said it represented 1 cubic inch of soil. And within that cubic inch, they said there were 1 million microscopic spiders. So like they're just like any chunk of soil in the world has so much complexity and life in there that we just can't hardly imagine. I usually say if you took any like square foot of the planet and somebody, a scientist, they could spend their whole lifetime just studying that square foot and never exhaust it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
See, I love this conversation because it's what I would term as mind expanding or thought expanding.
That's
right.
true.
The idea is to think differently, not the same.
Yeah. Well, you're in the right place for that.
Anyway.
We love to make it up as we go along, Morry. That's
best way to be.
Yeah.
That's what we said. We promised the intro video would finish and we would start. We didn't make any guarantees after that.
And it was good.
At least I was able to see the intro video today. I can't always see it. I don't know why. But
we got a couple of comments here. Okay.
Okay.
All right, here. Let's see
All
what's
right.
this. Oh, we actually, there we go. The school system is a failure. We know that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love Stephen.
Yeah. So there we go. So that whole question about it, if we do a broadcast and nobody hears it, did it exist? Well, we have a concrete evidence that we exist.
That's right.
The podcast exists.
Thank you, Stephen. We appreciate it.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm relieved.
He probably didn't realize that he was going to confirm something.
Yeah. But there you go.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, do we have anything else we can add to the conversation here?
Well,
I guess we should put up your website for one.
Yeah, that would be good.
Excellent idea.
Yeah. And, in an echo chamber of everything we've been saying, in Chinese medicine, the conception is that each human is a complete universe. And so, that we can go in as far as we want and out as far as we want, and we're still all reflecting our own selves. And, stepping away from the egocentric idea of what the self is, I think is, we really touched on that today, and thanks, you guys. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, that's great. And
Thank
so
you
I
for
just
inviting me here. This was so much fun.
Yeah, and there's I guess I'll scroll through a bit here. So you go visit the website at themorrymethod.com, and then you have a bit about Morry, and then the various products. I'm a lot of your, you've got quite a lot here, and you said you have how many of these?
Well, on my products page there, I probably highlight about 10 of my products, but the most of the rest are specialty products that are sold like to governments or corporations, that kind of thing.
And there's the digital coffee. You get all the benefits of coffee without caffeine.
Yeah, you won't splatter any on your shirt, so feel comfortable.
There we go. So,
yeah, and it works.
Yeah. Well, your brain works. That's the whole point, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cooperating with the process once again. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, I know more now.
Are you sure?
Do you know, or do you have a different understanding?
I think we established that we don't know anything.
I guess I don't know anything. Yeah, you're right.
Well, that
We're
means
not
you
going to
know more
worry
than the
about
rest
it.
of us.
That's all right. None of us do, Roy. We're all good on that one.
Oh, good.
We're
I'm right there with you.
more blank slates ahead.
Yeah, what was it? The uncarved block, as the Taoists would say. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The blank slate.
Yeah. Tabula rasa.
Tabula rasa.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, well, thank you. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope everybody's had fun and enjoyed themselves and learned to chill out and not get too wound up about things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's mind opening.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I
thank
appreciate
you.
Our
It's
pleasure,
fun.
Morry.
Thank
Thank you.
So much fun. Yeah.
My pleasure.